Hey guys, in the car right now, on the way somewhere, and I had this inspiration, this little moment of inspiration to say, what is it about this kind of solipsistic worldview that I've been talking about on the channel lately that rubs me the wrong way when it comes to people talking about manifesting in these Neville Goddard communities? It's all about me. It's like, gimme. And the thing is, I'm not denouncing that. I'm not denouncing that we all have these needs, that we do have these needs. But the approach that we come from when we're acting in this solipsistic worldview that says, it's basically like taking everything is me pushed out to an extreme. It's like, okay, everyone's me, so I'm gonna make everyone serve me because they're reflections of me, and they're all pushed out me anyways. They're not even really real. So I'm just gonna use them and manipulate and basically use them as my puppets to serve me. The thing about this is that it actually paradoxically, you end up less served because of that. And let me explain why. When you are approaching things from a state of calm, from a state of neutrality, that's when you're being unreactive. In psychology, they call it being non-reactive. In manifesting, people call it reacting to the 3D. So you stop, when you enter into that state of willingness, the higher emotions on the scale that we talk about on David Hawkins' scale of consciousness, now you actually have the ability to enter into that observer mode that we talk about as well. Eckhart Tolle talks about the witnessing present. Vadim Zeland calls it the observer, right? All these different people, we all have, it's all referring to the same idea. It's getting you further up that scale because you're not so reactive. You're not like getting like triggered by everybody and what they're doing and needing things to be a certain way, right? I need them to conform or any of this stuff. So this is the beauty of this, is that once you enter into this state of more of that neutrality, more of that inner peace, paradoxically, now you have more influence over the people around you, over your reality. And that is like one way that we can bridge the gaps between some of these teachings, some of these teachers that teach about psychology, Eckhart Tolle, being present. You have the ability to be present now and observe people around you in a way that is not reactive, making it all about you all the time. And that is when you are actually able to influence reality so that you can get your needs met more than if you were being reactive and making it about you all the time. I wish I had like some stories right now, because this is kind of an off-the-cuff video that really illustrate this. But you know, for example, I like doing this with my just people that come to mind, like the woman that I'm working on this Airbnb with. The Airbnb is now finished. But like the more personal or any interaction that you have with somebody, it's like now you just come at it from a conflict perspective, which is like, you're doing this, each person's pointing the blame, and there's no opportunity then to come to an equanimous or positive outcome, because both people are trying to, like, when you try to make the other person wrong, things don't really work out very well. If you notice that, like, nobody likes to feel like that. Even if somebody did do something wrong, then if you're dealing with a child, for example, like my niece, people have the tendency to want to either save the person or blame them or punish them, or, you know, there's all of these responses are very reactive. But when you get into that state where you just listen, you literally just listen to the person, and you allow this natural state of calm, peace, neutrality that you are emanating, because that is the source energy, that is your true self anyways. And when you come at the interaction like that, it's like you're downloading that peace into the other person. You're allowing the law of state transference to operate. And so when Neville Goddard and these teachers talk about living in the end, or mainly it's Neville Goddard that says this, right? Most people, most spiritual teachers will talk about the process. But when Neville particularly says the end, he's talking about, or the feeling, or feeling from the wish fulfilled, this is what he's talking about, is this inner peace, that inner fulfillment that you have already when you, or that you would have, let's say, or you think you would have, really, is a catch-22, because oftentimes we get that desired external reality, we get it, we get the quick dopamine hit, and then we go right back to those feelings of dissatisfaction, because that's what our patterns are. That's what we have programmed into our body through years and years of repetition. And this is why doing this inner work, doing this shadow work, going in and really understanding, hey, look, this is something that it's not, no need to blame ourselves. It's no need to cast blame to anybody, not even ourselves, right? It's just, these are patterns that I picked up. These are habits that I picked up. And what can I do now? It's okay. This may have served me at a certain point in time, but now it's time for me to move into a new way of handling this. Or it's about allowing those emotions to you to pass through them. And that's why that scale consciousness is helpful as well, because it's like you can identify where you're at, and there's specific techniques you can use to move up the scale. And I have a bunch of these techniques actually in my book, which are there for you. Depending on where you're at emotionally, certain techniques are gonna work better. But anyways, like the main point of this is that once you begin to come into that more neutral observer state, being the witness, being that presence that Eckhart Tolle talks about, that all of these spiritual teachers talk about really, now, and you stop making it me all the time, because that's coming from a place of emotional angst. That's coming from the opposite of the wish fulfilled, right? Because that is like the person that's unsure, so they have to get reality to conform, because it's like that child throwing a tantrum almost. It's like your inner child inside of you is throwing that tantrum because it's not getting its needs met, and it's afraid, and it's coming from fear. But when you come from the state of love, as cheesy as that might fucking sound, or the state of acceptance, the state of willingness, the state of power, the true power that you have, that's coming from a place where you're embodying this, and the other people's mirror neurons will literally begin to reflect this. So you get into an argument with somebody, or you're dealing with a kid that's throwing a tantrum, or whatever it might be. Now that peace that you were emanating, that's like that Jesus Christ consciousness, but it's like this healing energy that comes off of you, and it's able to resolve situations, it's able to resolve conflicts. Of course, it's going to be helpful as well if you if you verbalize this. You're not just going to sit there like a Buddha and everything's just going to immediately begin to like conform to your will or anything like this. But it's like coming from that space, and then having practical tools as well of how to speak to yourself, how to speak to others, is going to be extremely, extremely powerful. And that's how you blend some of these ideas from psychology and these practical ideas with some of the spiritual stuff. And so, my book shows you how to do these things. And so you can use basically your language, and as I've said many times on this channel too, the way that you speak to others is also the way that you speak to people. Many of the ways that we speak to ourselves that are unhelpful, there are patterned consciousness, they're patterns in the way that we speak to ourselves and our self-talk, was developed initially because we from our parents or from our teachers or from some instance of us growing up, and this was the way that we got spoken to, in this form of like maybe it was punishment, or maybe it was that's not right. It's like in the form of there's so many ways that you can get spoken to when you were a child that can basically impact you. And it's like over time it builds up into this idea that I'm not good enough, because you're constantly getting told that's bad, you're wrong. And that's what we end up doing with ourselves then, is we use that same self-talk with ourselves. There are ways that you can speak to yourself that will gently guide you out of those lower states of survival consciousness, like emotional reaction, into this this one lady that I watched her videos about how to speak with children. She calls it the executive state, which comes from these higher levels of awareness that the David Hawkins talks about. And so if you're able to do that, you will begin to learn how to speak to yourself and to others in a way that resolves conflict, that brings about outcomes that you want. So much of manifestation is really just communication. If you any of these SP coaches, they're always getting questions. What should I do? How should I talk to my SP? What should I say to my SP? How can I get them to conform? What do I say to myself? What affirmation should I be using? What should I be saying to myself, right? That's all communication, whether you talk to yourself or you talk to others. So developing these skills is going to, and really taking care of your own, It's, as again, cheesy as it sounds, it's like cleaning up your own room. You clean up your own room first, and that will begin to reflect. If you come into a situation and you're on edge, you're reactive, you are just coming at it like this, it's really not going to work. And that comes from this solipsistic worldview that's like, it's all about me, your alligator brain takes over, or whatever, your reptile brain, and then blah, 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 right? When you come at a state of, how can I embody, you know, the peace, or embody the solution, or be the change that I want to see, because now you're just observing, you're noticing, you're listening to people, you're actually hearing what the person's saying, you're listening to them, and you are allowing, you know, okay, we're just going to breathe through this, and it could be with yourself as well, and then taking a solution-oriented approach once the person's ready, once they've been heard out, once they've felt heard. And this is a mistake that I keep making to this day, because it's like, I am solution oriented, I want to get to the solution, but sometimes it is about listening first. I gotta go, but with that being said, guys, much love as always. I hope this helps, and yeah, see you guys in the next one.